Hey guys, been a little while since I did a video, and it hasn't been a great New Year so far. It's been a bit of a down year, I think. So I haven't done a lot creatively. You know, the sad thing is right now being unemployed, I've got the time. I could say I don't have the inspiration. I may have some inspiration, but I'm not together enough to. It's very hard to sit down and concentrate and work on music. It requires such a level of concentration that if you're not all in a happy place or whatever, you know, it's hard to do. And you know, just setting up the instruments and the recordings and the sound levels and all that kind of crap, such a pain in the ass. And, you know, I'll start to do it. Maybe I should record something, I'm thinking, you know, and I have some ideas. And I start off the software and the computers and the instruments and all that crap. And then I'm like, you know what? Let me look at my emails, you know, and then end up shutting the stuff off like a half hour later after, you know, everything's almost up and running, you know. But the level of concentration it takes to really put something out there. And, you know, the only things I've done recently are really like totally live off-the-cuff things when, you know, what I'm referring to is really the more compositional things, you know. And I forgot of several months ago, I started this piece that I thought was finished and wasn't finished. And it's like, oh, crap, I gotta finish that, you know. And then realized it's kind of a complicated piece because it keeps changing keys on me. So it's like I just put the whole thing down. And it's like going to be such a great piece if only I could finish it, you know. But usually, knowing me, when something sits and I haven't touched it for a couple months, it never gets finished. And I've got like something like 12 tracks of guitars. You know, I've really got a lot of work done on this one piece. But I don't have the stuff that goes on top of it, and it would be really good if I ever got that done. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen. I don't know. So, for lack of anything else to do, let me see. I got my car inspected today. Friday, the 13th, might be a good day to get it inspected for a few reasons. Going during the day, most people are working. So if you go on a weekday when most people are working, the crowds are, you know, usually less. This is a tough area, you know. Crap. When I started driving, it was like a 6 or 7 hour ordeal to go through car inspection. I guess because the population here is so bad. And then they were forced to change the car inspection to every 2 years because the lines were so incredibly long. I remember I used to go on Saturdays. I used to work a normal Monday to Friday job when I was young, and I started driving. And working Monday through Friday, I couldn't get my car inspected, so I'd have to get up at 5:30 or 6 on a Saturday morning, drive down to the DMV, get in line, bring a book. This is long before cell phones were around or anything like that. You bring a book, and if you were lucky, you'd get out by about 3 p.m. You know, I'd go there and there'd be 100 cars there already at like 6 or 7 a.m., which is hours before they even opened. I think that's why they eventually had to go to the inspection every 2 years. I don't know if they do that in every state, or just certain states like Jersey. And I haven't had, this is only the car that I have now, which I bought in 2012, is only the second new car I've had in my lifetime. Probably the last new car, considering how much they cost now. And I was really lucky. You know, when you buy a new car, you don't have to go for inspection for like, must have been 4 years. And, you know, I didn't pay any attention to the sticker on the window. Every time I'd look at it, it'd be like, oh, wow, that's great. I don't have to go to inspection until 2017. That's way off. Yesterday, a couple days ago when I went out to do my laundry, I looked at the sticker and I realized, shit, 2017, we're in it now, which means it'll be the first time I got to take the car to inspection. Yesterday was Thursday, and it was abnormally warm. So it might have been a day when people took their car to inspections if they, were not working during the day. Saturday is always going to be bad at DMV. But it's got two things going for me today. It got a lot colder today. So it's pretty cold out today. It's a Friday, so a lot of people are working, and they're going to wait till Saturday to go because that's the only time they can go. And it's Friday the 13th. And if you're superstitious, you don't want to bring your car to inspection on Friday the 13th because you might fail. I was fairly confident that I wouldn't fail because this is literally the first time with my Jeep, with this car, that I've had to go to inspection. And I figured, well, you know what? I'm going to be in compliance with the big thing is the emissions test. And being a newer car, unlike all the other cars that I've had in the past, I'd say about 90% of the time that I went to inspection in the past years, they were with extremely older cars, and 90% of the time I failed. 90% of the time I failed. And then I would have to spend X amount of money to get the emissions fixed. So and it used to be yearly. It was a nightmare thing because it would, every car I had was, 10 years old, 8 years old, 12 years old, 15 years old, and they always failed. So it was incredible. It's the first time ever in my life, since I've been going since I was 17, did I time it right. There was one car ahead of me. I was in and out of there in 10 minutes. I don't think I've ever done less than an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe, in inspection, no matter when I went. It's also the middle of the month, so people usually, you get the good people that go at the beginning of the month and get it over with. And those are the planners, and I'm not one of them. And then you got the last minute people that go at the end of the month or the beginning of the next month that they're supposed to go. And generally, I've heard that the middle of the month is a good time to go, or maybe I just lucked out today, but I went today. It'll never happen again, I'm sure. I don't think I've ever done, I'm sure I've never done less than an hour and a half, 2 hours. And that's just the waiting part for inspection. So today what I did is, I thought I would I keep looking at some CDs and things that are on the shelf and things that years go by and I don't listen to them, and I pull them out and then I get in a little run with them and I listen to them a bunch of times in succession. And they're not necessarily bands or groups that I have a lot of CDs or albums by, or people that I know a lot about. But they're ones that certain people who watch my videos may know and would probably like, or at least the first batch here. And I kept on eyeballing these, and they were on the bottom of the stack, and I finally moved all the CDs and pulled these out and gave these a listen. Now here's a band. Until I looked them up, I only thought they did a handful of albums in the mid to late 80s into the early 90s, and then basically, broke up. A group called Zazen, Z-A-Z-E-N. But looking them up, at least in Wikipedia, claims that they recorded no less than 21 albums, not counting compilations. That's a lot of albums, but I can tell you that none of them are in print. And this is one of those groups that I kind of discovered. Well, they had most of those 21 albums are on real small labels, but they had a couple, and I think both of these. Is this a Miramar? Well, one of them at least, one of them I have, called Canyons of Light, which is really good, is on the Miramar label, which no longer exists, but back in the day, and this is from the mid-'80s, or early 90s. This one looks like 95. I didn't think they were around that long. Miramar was a good quote-unquote new age label. And signed a lot of people, and these were all in the stores. At that time, you didn't really have the internet to buy stuff on. So, all these CDs that I would get by them were, just from seeing them in the shops. And I had no idea that they had 21 albums out. Interesting group. There was a producer, and he seemed to have produced all their albums from what I read. I don't know if it was his concept and he brought together the musicians exactly or what the scenario there is, but there was this guy, Dr. Frederick Lenz, who apparently produced most or all of their albums. Wasn't a writer, wasn't a player, but was a producer. And seemed to have produced all their albums under the name Rama, R-A-M-A. So this guy used two names. But this Dr. Frederick Lenz was apparently, I guess amongst a music producer, he was also an author of books. This other one I have by them, what label is this on? You know, it's interesting. Some of these labels, it's like they're trying to hide what they are. I don't even know what label this is on. 92. This is not a Miramar album. But there's another one by them, the only other one that I have. They're both really good. The band, besides this producer whose role I'm not 100% sure of, he didn't co-write any of the music. All the music was written by the three guys that were in the band. Joaquin Lievano, a guitarist that I'm familiar with, has done a bunch of solo albums, probably the best known name in the group, and played with Gianluca Ponti in the, I want to say late 70s or early 80s. He was a guitarist with Gianluca Ponti. Played on at least a couple of his albums. I'm thinking of two in particular. Sometimes he was the only guitarist, other times he worked with guys like Alan Holdsworth. He was on a guitarist, Luc Ponti album with Alan Holdsworth. I want to say that's from the late 70s. And he's also made some nice solo albums, and I have this particular one, Ecology by Lievano. And this one is also on Miramar. So Miramar liked this guy. And he's done a bunch of solo albums. And this one was also, this was 96, so it's around the same time as the Zazen records. And, you know, really, this is obviously guitar-oriented. There's a bass player that plays on a few tracks of the album, but for the most part, it's all Joaquin Lievano playing guitars. Really, really nice, you know, not avant-garde stuff, not jazz, really kind of nice, a little more acoustic-oriented than electric-oriented. Nice, breathy, you could call it New Age, but really good. I got to get more of his stuff. He seems like an interesting guy. He's been around a long time. But the Zazen group that he was in, as one of the three members, had a guy named Steve Kaplan as keyboard, so his keyboards, guitar, and bass. A guy named Andy West on bass, played pretty much fretless electric bass. So no drummer or anything. Nice open sound that the band had, very accessible, not avant-garde, not really not an acoustic band, but not like a deep electronic type of thing either. And I really like their stuff, and it was just when I was looking them up on the internet that I find out that they did no less than 21 albums, not counting compilations. I think literally every time I've looked for anything by them on the internet that I didn't already have, which is most of their stuff, it's been out of print for so long that, like, you know, sealed copies are really outrageously expensive. So I didn't know what Steve Kaplan, the keyboard player, did apart from Zazen, but Andy West, the bass player, oddly enough, was one of the original founding members of the Dixie Dregs, the fusion rock band, I guess, you know, instrumental fusion rock band. And so this is something very different for him, because, you know, that band was kind of, you know, electric, kind of, you know, with Steve Morse on guitar. I guess the Dixie Dregs was founded by Andy West and Steve Morse, and pretty much at the time that the Dixie Dregs stopped recording, and Andy West went on to do this Zazen project, he also became involved somehow with, I believe, like computer software programming or something like, along those lines. And he's done that as a full-time job since, so he hasn't been in music. And he's been doing very little music at all in recent years, which is it's a bit sad. I really liked his fretless playing in this group, especially. I'm not a big Dixie Dregs fan. I have a couple things of theirs. It's not really my kind of thing. But his playing is much more, I think, melodic on this. And as a three-piece, this is a really good band. I'm sorry that they haven't continued. I don't know what keyboardist Steve Kaplan has done since then, but Andy West is apparently a big deal. He's like a VP in some company now that has something to do with online learning or something like that. So he went into the I guess the software engineering or software programming field or something like that. And he's got his own website, which I took a quick look on. And he's got a blog on there where he only very occasionally writes something. Like 2010, I think it was, the T. Lavitz, who was the original keyboard player for Dixie Dregs, passed away suddenly. And he put a nice little entry in there, Andy West, on his blog, on his andywest.com site. It doesn't seem like, really sadly, he's very much involved in music. And so Zazen, I'm going to still try to pick up their stuff when I can. But nice, pleasant, shorter tunes. They're playing in the background. I'm taking a little bit of a chance because I don't know about the copyright stuff of this. It's out of print. But, Miramar was fairly big independent label, so I don't know if this whole thing is going to get blocked or not. But this Canyons of Light, which is real, kind of pretty electric keyboards, a lot of acoustic guitar oriented in the fretless bass. There's some light drum samples, I guess, played on the keyboards, but they're light, nothing difficult, definitely not that kind of music that you would put on and somebody would say, "What the hell are you playing?" If anything, it would blend into the background for people that don't like it at all. So this is a band that it's one of those groups I've had sitting on my shelf. Every few years, I pull it down, listen to it, and said, "Oh yeah, that's good. I got to see if I can, get some more of their stuff from the 80s and 90s that I missed." But they weren't popular enough for any of their stuff. It seems to stay in print. Really sad. And it's just one of those kind of bands from that era of the mid 80s that kind of came along, when New Age started happening, and were in just about any store that had a decent New Age selection. And now just completely gone. So like I said, I don't know what Steve Kaplan is doing. Joaquin Lievano, who makes some really nice stuff on his own. I got to pick up more of his solo stuff too. Like I said, I've got him playing with Gene McPonte, which is a whole different world. But he's got a nice style of his own. I was going to put this on the background, but I've only got the one album by him. Maybe at some future time I want to pick up more stuff by both of these guys anyway. So this may or may not be a band that some of you guys are familiar with. I heard, they flew a bit under the radar, like a lot of Miramar groups. If you knew the label, you may have known the band if you were around picking up the Miramar stuff when it was in the stores in the 80s, really before the internet. It seems like by the time the internet came along, and Amazon and those places where you could buy music online, I think the band was pretty much gone by then. And, Lievano has been doing his, I guess he's still doing solo stuff. I didn't really look him up. But hopefully he's still out there doing it, because this particular CD, this Ecology, is a really nice one. It's very much in the mode of the Zazen stuff, though, too, just, without the keyboards. And just one of those groups that I think they were actually one of the better things on Miramar. Miramar always had really good production values, and this isn't like the ultra obscure really stuff, you know. But it's just one of those bands or groups of musicians that I always end up falling on the bottom of a big stack of CDs, and then, you know, once every few years I'll pull them out and give them a listen and say, damn, I really like that stuff, you know. And you listen to them for a month or whatever, and then you put them back on the shelf and you tend to forget about them again. And you know, I've been stuck in a rut listening to a lot of the same stuff, like the stuff I showed already that I got for Christmas, and you know, and things that I've got in the last really in the last few months. I've been listening to them a lot. You know, it's winter, and I always get in the mood to hear the electronic stuff, and I have been playing a bit of the Tangerine Dream stuff now, so that whole electronic vibe is starting to sink in pretty soon. You know, I'm going to be doing the Ashra Temple stuff, you know, which is heavily electronic, and you know, I'll be into probably full-blown electronic mode. But for now, I'm kind of, because the weather keeps fluctuating between this warm and, you know, warmer than it should be. It was like 50-something degrees yesterday. So it still doesn't, you know, a lot of days it doesn't feel like winter. But once we really get settled in there, I'm definitely always in an electronic mode. So for now, I'm listening to Zazen and a lot of the stuff I showed in my last video that I got for Christmas, like Buddy Rich and Genestra, you know, classical stuff. I was going to show some other stuff, but, you know, right now, probably my next couple videos, unless something interesting comes along, probably going to be just, you know, these things that I'm pulling off the shelves that, you know, I'm giving a listen to, obviously things I like a lot, and probably that's what I'm going to do for now, in light of doing, you know, a 2-hour video on the entire history of somebody like Ralph Towner or something like that, like I've done in the past. So if you guys come across any Zazen or Joaquin Lievano, I highly recommend it. Easy to get into, not avant-garde experimental stuff at all, but really nice, good listening stuff. And today is Friday the 13th, and hope everybody's having a good New Year so far. I hope it gets better, because honestly, it hasn't started all that great. But you know, keep your chins up, whatever. And you know, I came here today to do this video simply because it's been a little bit of time since I came on live and talked. And so this is probably going to be the theme that I'm going to stick with, is the stuff on the shelves that I'm, you know, maybe pulling down to listen to, you know, as you know, like artists like this that have only got a few CDs by, you know, instead of any really intense, in-depth things. So, you know, I'll keep it under a half hour. I had other stuff I was going to show. I'd do it next time because they're totally unrelated artists. And you know, this is me doing a more bite-sized video. And have Zazen playing in the background to, you know, I've tried ticking around with the mix here and getting it as good as possible, so hope you can hear the music and the me both. The volume mix has been a very difficult one for me to get together for my videos, now that I'm going through a mixer, you know, and using a real microphone. And I'm actually playing the CDs, the physical CDs, on my DVD player. Okay, guys, hope everybody's doing well. It's Friday, so I hope you're, you know, if you have a traditional kind of weekend, I hope it's a good one. And I'll be back soon with probably some more stuff from the archives. Okay? Oh, my electric guitar broke and they couldn't fix it. I got the email the other day from the guy where the neck broke, and he's been trying to repair it since I brought it in just before Thanksgiving, so the end of November. And he sent me an email saying, well, I tried, but the fix didn't work. So now I don't have an electric guitar, essentially. I brought in the only other electric guitar I had, because I don't have any money to pay for the repairs, which was an old Telecaster that's really kind of beat up, and he was going to accept that and only give me like $100 toward the repair bill. And now he says, he still wants to buy the Telecaster, but $100 for a Telecaster is pretty damn cheap, so I don't know. If I sell it to him, I won't have a guitar to play, but you really can't play the Telecaster because it needs work on the electronics anyway. So, do I sell it to him and walk away with $100 to put toward a guitar, which isn't going to get me anywhere with an electric guitar? I'm probably going to do that, but the problem is, then I have no electric guitar whatsoever. And the cheapest one that I could find that seems to be something that is playable, you buy a cheap one and you have to exchange parts in it just to get it to be decent, it seems like around like $450 is like the price range where you can get something decent, and you don't have to go exchange parts out of it or something. And that kind of money I don't have, so I'm not sure what to do about that. The thought of not having an electric guitar, which means I got no way to play my guitar synthesizer, it's kind of it's a bummer, obviously. And naturally, that's the thing I feel like playing, and I think the only reason that I feel like I should be playing the guitar, the electric guitar and the guitar synth, is because I don't have it to play, But if I didn't have an acoustic guitar to play, like the one behind me, then I'd probably feel like playing acoustic guitar. That's just a mental thing, the way it is. And that's a hi-hat, by the way. That's in front of my electric guitar, my acoustic guitar right there. That's a hi-hat with the foot pedal. I had it in here. I was playing around. My room is slowly getting filled up with instruments, even though I'm not actually recording anything. It's like getting to the point where you can't even walk in here now. Because I got the keyboard set up, and little bit at a time percussion instruments get in here, but that's the way it is, and I barely leave this room anymore. Okay, guys, that's it. I'll probably do another, from the archives or my old stuff, and try to find a band like Zazen, things that may not be that well known, but are, to me, I think worthwhile listening to. Okay, guys, have a good weekend. I'll see you soon.